Mario with MIA Microflight. Today's Sunday, August 3rd, 2025. And I wanted to talk a bit on this gearbox that I designed for my coaxial helicopters. I made one change. I was not getting the quite the grip that that I should have been getting between the spur pulley or timing belt pulley, which is the large gear. Uh, it's not really a gear as in a typical gear system. You know, they uses gears or pinion gears and spur gears, but this is a pulley system because it uses a belt. It's a timing belt because it's serrated with teeth that match both the pinion and the spur uh, pulley. And so it's more of a pulley, a belt and pulley system, but it is a timing belt. uh, as I was saying, I wasn't getting the correct tension, and it's because under load, the rotors, you know, these are fairly decent size rotors. They exert a force on the drive mechanism, which is the motor, and so the motor has to contend with that force, and it's as you're spinning this higher and higher in RPM, you know, that force becomes greater on loading the motor, and so the motor was slipping with the belt, and I was losing that grip between the pinion uh, timing pulley and the large timing belt pulley. And so what I did is I added these idler pulleys here. This is just another pulley, timing belt pulley, and it's just idling there. It's under tension, and I can now swing back the motor via these two set screws on the slided motor mount. I can slide that back, and I can tension that a little bit better. Whether before it was just slipping because of the angle between that pinion and the spur was just too wide, and it was allowing the pinion to basically slip on the or it was allowing the belt to slip on the pinion. And so now with this idler pulley, and typically, you know, you use idlers in timing belt systems like this. I just didn't feel the need for that. I did another one like this, and it was working just fine. And I think it's because my tension was just right, but also I wasn't getting any flex on the plates because I did the plates from a different material than 3D printed material. I did those in fiberglass. So fiberglass, you know, for this thickness, it's quite. It's got a little more. Higher tensile strength. You know, the flex modulus on that is a lot stiffer than a 3D printed part, and so I think because of the flex in these parts right here, because they are 3D printed, even though this is a sandwich gearbox, I was getting a little flex in the motor. It was kind of under tension, was kind of pulling it too far in, and so with this idler pulley, that I believe that's going to resolve the issue. I did another setup with my other coaxial helicopter that does not use timing belt pinions or serrated spur gears or spur pulleys. On that other one, it's just a pulley, just a flat, non-serrated, non-tooth uh, spur pulley, but the pinion and the motor is very similar to the one here that I'm showing in this video. And so this is where I'm at with this. I just wanted to capture this on a video, you know, just for posterity sake, as I'm recording all my work that I do with my coaxial helicopters for whatever purpose it serves in the future. It certainly serves me a point of reference, because if I need to come back to something that in later later years, you know, I can always look at these videos and say, oh, okay, that's where my mind was at. That's why I did this. And so that's what this is for. You'll notice also that my pivot point here on this particular system is directly underneath instead of on top. And I have another video where I talk about to pivot or not to pivot. That is the question. And what I meant by that is to pivot. That pivot point is has some importance to how the stability of the helicopter and the control function. I'm not going to go too much into detail of that. Maybe I'll leave that for some other video, but I'll just suffice to say that it is important where that pivot point is. And as you can see, I experiment with a lot of these things in my videos for that purpose, because I need to find out in my own terms, what works and what doesn't, and what works better than some other things. Sometimes some things that you don't think about, or that you don't think are going to work good, work much better. So that's the purpose why I do so many of these helicopters. Somebody may be asking, why are you doing so many? The same thing. They're not the same thing. Each one of them has its unique features, angles. There's a lot that's involved in making a coaxial helicopter. It's not just buying two coaxial rotor heads that anybody can do off the shelf, and just putting them one on top of the other one. You can do that. With some of these toy coaxial helicopters that have existed. This is, by the way, is not a typical coaxial helicopter. It's a wave shift control helicopter. And the reason I'm doing this is because I started with a full scale size for myself that I wanted to control just via wave shift. Something a little more aesthetically pleasing than just two rotors on top of your head, strapped to your back, or on a tripod. Is there have been other people that have done such things, and you can see them hovering, just kind of pushing them off the ground and kind of floating, that kind of thing. Well, mine is a little more involved, because number one, safety is my main concern. It's extremely important that when you think about doing something like this, the safety concern has to be there. You cannot. There's no room for error there. When you're putting your life at stake, in some of these things, and you probably have seen videos if you are into helicopters, coaxial helicopters, whatever helicopter, whatever aircraft. In particularly helicopters, because they spin their rotors at such a high RPM, and there's so many things that can go wrong, especially when we have a helicopter that's very complex with so many mechanics, linkages, and cables and rods. There's another company that I believe is selling a helicopter for $35,000. Believe it or not, I mean, it's crazy how much something very simple can cost. But maybe they're trying to justify the cost of the liability in operating as a company that's supplying these things to people that feel they can fly these things, as a regular aircraft. The control system on that particular helicopter, it's run by cables, a lot of cables, and it uses collective pitch for both the top and the lower rotor. A lot of complexity, a lot of things that can go wrong, a lot of pulleys. It uses cables. I think they're just stainless steel cables, those braided cables. Yes, those cables are strong, but if one of those things snaps in flight, especially if you're 3,000 feet up in the air, as one of the guys that's promoting that helicopter is doing it, and it's showing it's great that he's doing that. And God forbid, something happens, to those cables, that would be the end of that, that life and that helicopter. Who cares about the helicopter? When a real life is in jeopardy. So I don't trust cables. I would never do a full size helicopter with cables, especially for control. You either put a solid linkage there, at the risk of adding a little more weight, but at least it's a little more secure that way than just a cable, especially in the control system where it needs to control, the yaw or the pitch, left and right. So it's very critical. I don't know where the mindset is on people that do stuff like that, especially for full-scale helicopters. I have to question that, and this is not to deter. This is not to demean or degrade, their work, because there's a lot of work. I mean, anybody that does this. I mean, I'm doing this on a scale basis, but I've done this also on a full scale. That's how I started making my smaller ones. I understand the dangers that are involved, in the risks that are involved, in making a full-scale helicopter, whether it's coaxial which is a lot simpler. Like in mine, weight shift control or something a little more complex. The more complex you get, the more room for error you introduce, and that's my from a logical standpoint, that is my point, and that's why I've been showing my models in very simplistic form, is to prove that point that you can achieve. I certainly don't want to fly these things at 10,000 feet. I mean, that's not my target. It's not these helicopters are not meant to replace commercial helicopters, even for personal enjoyment. 10,000 feet. Something goes wrong, that's it. You couldn't install a parachute, a ballistic parachute, and come down with a parachute that way. But why risk when you don't have to? The thrill of lifting yourself, I think, if you can just hover 3 feet above the ground and just go around, and if something happens, you fall 3 feet, even 10 feet up in the air would be sufficient for me. And so that is my target goal when I do these things. Is I don't do these things. Number one, I don't plan on making commercial versions of these things for sale. Number two, it's for personal use. And of course, these things have to be, under the regulations that are set by the FAA. I think Part 101 is allows experimental aircraft to be operated without a license. So those things are taken into account when doing these things, even for personal, just a personal enjoyment. But more than anything is safety and simplicity, and that's the reason why I do my models. Quarter scale. It's a lot cheaper, a lot safer. To have a mishap at the quarter scale without me being personally on the aircraft myself. Mario, once again, stay tuned for more.